Hi, I'm John McCarthy, president of Rockhouse Audio and Videotapes for Guitar and Bass. I'd like to take this chance to introduce Steve Gorenberg, one of bass guitar's best-kept secrets of the 1990s. His blazing bass techniques you're going to see throughout this whole 4 videotape series. Also, I'd like to take this chance to tell you that Steve also has an audio series available as a beginning, intermediate, and advanced series. And also, Rockhouse has available for you a guitar series for video and audio cassettes. Rockhouse, we have our motto that we're teachers trying to show you how to learn your instrument. We're not rock stars trying to show you how to play our songs. We want you to become your own musician, learn how to play your own style, and create your own style. So pick up your instruments, start playing, and get working hard. And I'm going to turn the mic over to Steve, and he's going to show you how to get some blazing bass techniques right now.
Hi, welcome to the Rockhouse Videos for Bass. This is tape number 3 of a 4-tape series, the Advanced A tape. On this tape, we're going to be covering a lot of material, a lot of theoretical material. In lesson 1, we'll do a review of what we covered on tapes 1 and 2. And in lesson number 2, we're going to go on to a few things like chordal rhythms, detuning, and we'll give you a couple more coordination exercises to build up some strength in your hands. Now, lesson number 3, we're going to go on to the 7th chords, and in lesson 4, we'll wind it all up with harmonic minor scales, diminished and augmented arpeggios, and 2-octave arpeggio riffs. Now, before we get started with the tape, I'd like to make a few points to you. 1, you should be reading the trade magazines by now, the guitar magazines, keeping up with what's going on in the field. You want to read the interviews and the articles with the stars because they're the ones that are selling the records and they know what the latest techniques are. You can learn a lot from doing this. Also, you should be listening to as many different styles of music as possible. You shouldn't concentrate on just one and have a closed mind to everything. You want to be listening to classical, metal, regular rock, pop, jazz, everything that you can get your hands on, and keep an open mind to it as well as an open ear. Now, lastly, don't forget the function of the bass player. The bass player is there to hold down the bottom and work with the drummer. Although you want to work along with the guitar player and do all sorts of two-handed techniques and riff out all over the place, you're going to lose the strength that the bass was put there for. And if you want to be going off all over the place in every song, then you may have chosen the wrong instrument. Remember what the bass player's function is. Now, go over everything that we have in lesson number 1. Take a quick look through it before we get started, and we'll be back in just a second. We'll go through it together. Welcome back. We're about to start lesson number 1. The first thing I want you to do is to check your tuning. If you have an electronic tuner, I'm tuned to A440, an electronic tuner. So if you have a tuner, you can tune to that, and you'll be in tune with me to play along with me on the tape. If not, I'm going to play for you each string individually now so you can tune your bass to mine. This is the first string, G. Second string, D. Third string, A. And finally, the fourth string, E. Okay, now if everybody's in tune, we're going to start lesson number 1. Turn your books to page number 1, and we're going to go over relative major and minor scales. Now, on the left-hand side of the page, we have the C major scale, and this is just a review from tapes 1 and 2. Starting at the 3rd fret on the 3rd string with your 2nd finger. And I'll play back down the scale. And make sure you're using the proper fingers in your left hand. Don't make up your own fingerings. This fingering is the best one possible to play the C major scale with. Also make sure that you're alternating your fingers back and forth in your right hand. Now we're going to go on to the A minor scale. Everybody starting at the 5th fret on the 4th string with your 1st finger. Okay, and back down the scale. Okay, now the circled notes on the finger charts in your book represent the root notes. So in the C major scale, the circled notes are the notes C. That's telling you you're in the key of C and you're starting and ending the scale on C. For the A minor scale, the notes A are circled on the finger chart. Now I'm going to play through both scales for you at a little bit of a faster speed, and at this point in your playing, the advanced stages, you should be able to play these scales pretty quickly. You should have them memorized. The major and minor scales are really important for you to know. And now here's the A minor scale. Okay, now turn in your books to page number 2. We're going to quickly review the A minor pentatonic scales in all 5 positions. This is something that we spent a lot of time on in tape number 2, so we'll go through it very quickly here. We'll start out at the bottom of the neck in the 4th position scale. Remember where those root notes are. All the circled notes are the notes A. You need to know where those are because when you use these to improvise, you're going to have to be playing around the root note. Now on to the 5th position, starting at the 3rd fret on the 4th string with your 2nd finger. Okay, and here's the 5th position scale again at a faster speed. Also remember where these root notes are. I'll give you a quick example here in each position of playing around the root note, and this is what I mean by that. Okay, now everybody move on to the root position scale, starting at the 5th fret on the 4th string with your 1st finger. Now I'll play through that one at a faster speed for you. On to the 2nd position scale, starting at the 8th fret with your 2nd finger. And here's the root note on the 2nd string at the 7th fret. Now moving along to the 3rd position scale, starting at the 10th fret with your 1st finger. Pay close attention to the fingering on this one. Okay, and here's the 3rd position scale at a faster speed. Now moving along to the bottom of page 2, we have some 2-octave riffs that I've got here for you in the A minor pentatonic key. It's going to be moving from one note up the bass 2 octaves to the same note. The first riff starts on open E, so we're going to be moving up to the 9th fret E on the 1st string, 2 octaves. Slide up. Slide up. Okay, now we'll play this through at a faster speed. And a good way to remember where the root notes are in these 2-octave riffs is to pause on them as you're going up the riff. Okay, now the second two-octave riff is a little bit tougher. This one is starting at the note C at the 8th fret on the 4th string. Okay, and here's that one at the faster speed. And I'll play it for you one more time, this time pausing on the root notes on the way up. Now turning your books to page number 3, we're going to go over the G major pentatonic scale. And we just reviewed the major scale before, so I'd like you to make a comparison between the major pentatonic scale and the major scale. Starting at the 3rd fret on the 4th string with your 2nd finger. And back down the scale. And you can see how the major pentatonic scale is just a derivative of the major scale. It's a major scale subtracting a couple of notes to give it a more bluesy sound. It's more of an improvisational scale. Now if you turn in your books to page number 4, we're going to review the arpeggio fingerings that we did in tape number 2. On the top of the page we have the major arpeggios going across the page, and on the bottom we have the minor arpeggios going across the page. We're going to do all of them as A major and A minor arpeggios, just so that you can see the difference between the major and the minor fingerings. The first one, we're going to start with our 4th finger at the 5th fret on the 4th string. A major arpeggio. Now down below that on the page, not across but below on the page, you'll see the fingering for the minor arpeggio starting on your 4th finger. Let's go through that and play an A minor arpeggio. Okay, and the notes that we're playing here are labeled the root, 3rd, 5th, and octave. And you'll notice the difference between the two arpeggio fingerings is the only difference is the 3rd. There's a flatted 3rd for the minor arpeggio. In the major arpeggio you have a major 3rd. It's called a major 3rd, and the flatted 3rd is called a minor 3rd. That's how you get the names major and minor arpeggios. Now moving on to the 2nd fingering for the major and minor arpeggios, we're going to be starting at the same note with our 1st finger. This is just an alternative fingering. We're playing the exact same notes. Okay, and now here's the minor arpeggio with a flatted 3rd. Now going across the page again, we'll go through the fingering starting with your 2nd finger on the root note A. Here's an A major arpeggio starting with your 2nd finger. And down below that you'll see the minor arpeggio fingering starting with your 2nd finger. Stretch back and then reach up with your 4th finger. Okay, now I'm just going to play through every arpeggio on the page a little bit faster for you. Here's both arpeggios starting with your 4th finger. First A major. Now A minor. A major starting with your 1st finger. A minor starting with your 1st finger. And now here's A major starting with your 2nd finger. And A minor starting with your 2nd finger. Now turning your books to page number 5, we're going to talk about the key of C major and what it means to have chords in a particular key. Now, when we talked about the C major scale, we talked about all of the different notes that are in it. You climb right up the musical alphabet, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. We can build chords or arpeggios on each step of the C major scale. And the C major arpeggio is going to be called the first chord because it starts on the first step of the scale. The chord built on D is called the second chord or the 2 chord because D is the second step of the C major scale. The chord built on E is the 3rd chord, and so on, right on up. And there's a little chart on page 5 that'll show you exactly how we do this. We just take the root, 3rd, and 5th right up the scale, still using the C major scale. The only difference is we're going to start on a different step of the scale each time. And it'll give us different major and minor chords. Now, in a major key, the 1 chord is major. In a major key, the 2 chord is minor. The 3 chord is minor. The 4 chord is major. The 5 chord is major. The 6 chord is minor. And the 7th chord is called a diminished chord, which is an arpeggio that we haven't covered yet, but we will be doing that on pages 6 and 7. Now, everybody turn in your books to page 6 and 7, and we're going to go over the 7 arpeggios in the key of C major. The top of page 6, on the left-hand side of the page, first is the C major arpeggio. And we'll start this at the 3rd fret of the 3rd string with your 2nd finger. Onto the 2 chord in the key of C major is going to be the D minor chord, starting at the 5th fret on the 3rd string with your 1st finger. Onto the 3 chord, which is an E minor chord. Down to page 7, the 4 chord, which is an F major chord, starting at the 8th fret on the 3rd string with your 2nd finger. Onto the G major chord, which is the 5 chord, all the way down to the 3rd fret on the 4th string. We're just moving down an octave here. Onto the 6th chord, which is the A minor chord. And now here's the 7th chord, which is the diminished chord. A diminished chord is actually a minor chord with a flatted 5th. So the chord contains a minor 3rd, and the 5th has been flatted, starting at the 2nd fret on the 3rd string on the note B. Okay, so here's the root note, the minor 3rd, the flatted 5th or diminished 5th, and the octave B. Now this holds true to any major key at all. Every single major key forms out this way. The 1 chord is major, the 2 chord is minor, 3 chord is minor, 4 chord is major, 5 chord is major, 6 chord is minor, and the 7 chord is diminished. Remember that the 7 chord is the oddball, and you won't have any problem remembering that that's a diminished chord. In a major key, the 1, 4, and 5 chords are major. All of the other chords are minor, so you can remember where the major chords are and the diminished chord is, and then you won't have any problems remembering what every step of the scale is. This is very important when you start writing bass lines and improvising to songs using the arpeggios, because when a song is written in a particular key, the guitar player will go to a C chord or a D chord. You want to know whether that chord is major or minor, because if you play a minor arpeggio against a major chord, it's not going to sound very good. You want to play minor arpeggios against minor chords. You want to play major arpeggios against major chords. And you have to memorize what scale step is what chord in order to be able to do this. Now everybody turn over to page number 8, and I have a bass line here, arpeggio riffs. This is going to be using a blues type of rhythm. And I'll first play through this for you slowly. We'll take it step by step, and then I'll play it along with a drum track and a guitar track. This is all going to be in the key of C major or A minor. because they're relative keys. It's actually the key of C major. We're starting on an A minor chord, which is the sixth chord in the key of C major. Onto the D chord, and it's a D minor chord, the 2 chord. Onto the third measure, which is a G chord, and that's the 5 chord. Onto the fourth measure, which is the C chord. That's the 1 chord in the key of C major, so it's obviously a C major chord. Continuing on to the next measure, which would be an F major chord, the 4 chord. Onto the G major chord. Okay, and this is just to show you an idea of how you can use the arpeggios tastefully against a chord change. And now I'm going to play through the rhythm track of the guitar and the drums along with it so that you can hear what this is going to sound like along with the guitar player. Okay, now you can work on everything in lesson number 1. Get down all the arpeggios and arpeggio fingerings. Make sure you memorize what step of the scale has what type of chord on it. Remember, the 1, the 4, and the 5 in a major key are major chords. The 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. The 7 chord is the oddball. That's the diminished chord, and all the rest of them are minor. Memorize all of those rules and get set to go on to lesson number 2. We're going to start that with some chordal rhythms. Hey, welcome back to lesson number 2. Before you start lesson number 2, I'd like to make a point. The reason why the tape is divided up into lessons is because there's only a certain amount of material that you can cover within a period of time. I know you probably just picked up this tape and you want to go through the whole thing right away and just pound the whole thing right off. You're not going to get that much out of it. You'd be much better off not even watching the next lesson until you've got everything down in lesson number 1. It'll be a distraction to you. I'd really like you to go through and practice that and get those things down. Believe me, they're going to really set you up and give you a good foundation to do some of the tricks that you want to do. Now, when you are ready, we can start lesson number 2. Turn in your books to page number 9, and we're going to go through the chordal rhythms. Okay, now, the first one is in the style of Billy Sheehan, and this is from the song Shy Boy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play through it along with the drum track slow and then fast for you so you can see what it sounds like in rhythm. First, let's just go through the first couple of measures together so that you can see how your right hand is going to be playing this. Everybody get your left hand set up. Your first finger and your fourth finger should be playing the chord, and your first finger will be at the 3rd fret on the 2nd string, your fourth finger at the 5th fret on the 1st string. Then your 3rd finger will be playing the bottom bass note. That's at the 5th fret on the 3rd string. Now your right hand is going to be alternating between playing the chord and playing the bottom note. The chord you should be playing by assigning your first finger to the 2nd string and your 2nd finger to the 1st string and pulling both simultaneously. And then you can alternate between doing the rhythm on the 3rd string and reaching up and hitting the chord. And that's basically the technique. You can let the chord ring out over the rhythm note on the bottom. You can just let it ring out so they all ring together. That's the effect of the chordal rhythm itself. Now I'm going to play through it for you at a slow speed along with the drum track. Okay, now I'm going to go through it for you at a faster speed. This is regular speed, and it's what it should sound like on the album. Okay, now let's go on to the next chordal rhythm. This is going to be in the style of Geddy Lee. It's from their latest album, Hold Your Fire, and this is from the song Force 10. Okay, now you're going to start this out with the chord on the first and second strings at the 10th fret and 9th frets of the second and first strings using your second finger and your first finger. You're going to play this chord and slide this chord up to the 14th and 12th frets with your third and first fingers. Watch that slide again. This one's a little bit more complicated. You have to transfer from your second to your third finger when you get up to the top. And a good way to make sure that you're reaching this is to use your first finger as the reference. Just slide your first finger to the 12th fret, and when you do that and put your third finger down, your third finger should just fall right into place at the 14th fret. Okay, now I'm going to play through this for you at a slow tempo, and then we'll go through and do it at a faster speed, which would be normal speed like how it is on the album. Okay, now here it is at a faster speed, and this is regular speed. Okay, now turn in your books to page number 10. We're going to go over another technique that's being used a lot today in rock and metal styles. It's called detuning, and this gives you a better range to cover on your bass. What we're going to do is we're going to take your E string and tune it down to a D. Some of the Van Halen albums, right around the time of Fair Warning, he started doing this in almost every song. It's being used a lot by him, and there's even a company that invented a little device that you can put on your bass to instantly tune from E right down to D. The way to do this is to play your open D, or open second string, and your open E, and tune your E lower until they match up at an octave apart of each other. Now, a few things happen to your notes when you do this. First of all of the notes on your fourth string are going to shift. They're not going to be in the same places anymore. You're going to have an E now at the second fret, F at the third fret, G at the fifth fret. And there's a neck diagram on page 10 that's going to show you where all of the notes are now on your open fourth string when it's tuned to a D. Below that on page 11, there's a couple of charts there that'll show you some interesting things, a way of helping you to find the notes while you're tuned to D. Now what you have here is two D strings. Your fourth string and your second string are both D. So all of the frets match up with each other. Octaves will be played like this now. So if you know the notes on your second string or D string, you should have no problem following the notes on the fourth string. If you look over to the right-hand side of the page, we'll show you how you can play a 2-octave root and fifth chord. We're going to start on G, which is now at the 5th fret on the 4th string. And you can bar that, the 3rd string, and the 2nd string, all with your 1st finger. And then reach over with your 4th finger to play the D at the 7th fret on the 1st string. Moving down to the bottom of the page, on the left-hand side of the page, we'll have a section here that'll show you how you can play all D. You have an open D here at the 4th string, an open D on the 2nd string. Now play your D at the 5th fret on the 3rd string and the octave D at the 7th fret on the 1st string. This is all D now. Every string is set at a D. And you have 3 different octaves that you're working with. So if you're playing a rhythm along on the open 4th string, you can selectively add the notes on the other strings to fill out the bottom a little bit more again. And of course, on the right-hand side of the page, you have another small diagram showing you the natural notes in the 1st position and how they would go. You have to go D, E at the 2nd fret, F at the 3rd fret, G at the 5th fret, and then up to open A. So remember that. This G is at the 5th fret now. A on the 4th string would now be at the 7th fret. So when you're playing in the 1st position, okay, now everybody turn over to page number 12. We're going to finish up lesson 2 and do a couple of coordination exercises. First thing I want to do is tune my bass back up to E from D. You should be doing the same. Good technique. Now, the first thing we're going to do on page 12 is going to be the Revenge of the Killer. If you mastered the Killer and had it all locked up on tape number 2, he's back to put you through some more hell, and here it is, starting at the 8th fret on the 1st string with your 4th finger. And that's the pattern we're going to be using now. You want to take that pattern, move it down to the 2nd and 3rd strings. Down to the 3rd and 4th strings. Now we're going to do the Revenge of the Killer backwards. Okay, and here it is at a faster speed. And this is really good for right and left hand coordination. It's going to help you get faster with your arpeggios and scales too. Now go on to the finger crushers. And this is the real killer, the finger crushers. We're going to be using the root position A minor pentatonic scale. Everybody read through the directions first. For each measure, you're going to repeat it 4 times. Then you're going to move the pattern 1 fret at a time up to the 12th fret and then back down 1 fret at a time. Let me just play through the first measure for you slowly. 4 times, then 1 fret at a time up to the 12th fret. And now back down. 1 fret at a time. Now you do the same thing with the second measure. Right on to the third measure. And etc. right on up and back. And then on the right-hand side of the page, we have the exact same exercise, but backwards. Now, you want to be playing every note. Don't be doing any hammer and pull-offs. You want to strike every single note with your right hand that you're fretting in your left hand. I'm going to play through the whole exercise for you, forwards and backwards, at a regular speed now. Now here it is backwards. Now, if you're doing this right, you should really feel that. This is going to be painful at first, and it's going to build up some muscles and some good strength right in here, right in your forearms. This is where you should feel it, and also in your fingers. And that's why we call them the finger crushers. This is actually a guitar technique and a guitar exercise that was taken from the guitar videos, and I thought this exercise was so great that I stole it from John and I put it in my bass tapes. You should really practice this going smoothly. It doesn't matter how fast you go. You can go slow, but you want to go smoothly. You don't want to stop. If your hand gets tired, that's what it's there for. You want to keep on going when your hand gets tired and build up some endurance. Now you can practice through the coordination exercises, see what you can do with the chordal rhythms and detuning, and then get set to go on to lesson number 3. Welcome back to lesson number 3. Lesson number 3, we're going to pound off the 7th chords, and then you can learn these and really get to riff out with them. Now, at the bottom of page number 13, you're going to go through the G major 7 chord, which is the 1 chord. All of these are going to be in the key of G. Now, before you go and do this, make sure that you've got all the chords down from lesson number 1, that you know that the steps of the scales that have the major and the minor chords on them, because you're going to need to know that in order to be able to do this. Let's go through it right now. G major 7, starting at the 3rd fret of the 4th string with your 2nd finger. Root, 3rd, and 5th, and here's the 7th. So we just added one more note onto that G major chord. Okay, so the 1 chord in a major key is a major 7 chord. Onto the 2 chord, which would be the A minor 7 chord. So the 2 chord in a major key is a minor 7 chord, starting at the 5th fret with your 1st finger. Onto the 3 chord, which is also a minor 7 chord, would be a B minor 7 chord, starting at the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. Now go on to page number 14. We'll finish up in the key of G major. C major 7 would be the 4 chord. So a 4 chord in a major key is a major 7 chord. Onto the 5 chord. The 5 chord is an exception. It's a D dominant 7 chord. Dominant 7 means it's a major arpeggio, root, 3rd, and 5th, with a minor or flatted 7th on top. Onto the 6th chord, which would be a minor 7 chord. It's the E minor 7 chord. Onto finally the 7 chord, which would be an F sharp minor 7 flat 5. Remember, the 7 chord was a diminished chord. Now we're going to add a minor 7 onto it. So it's called a minor 7 flatted 5 or half diminished. Okay, and these chords are used for more jazzy type playing, nightclub type music, and we're going to show you an example on page number 15 that's called Walking Bass. I'll play through this for you with the drum and guitar track. And I'll review over the 7th chords. This was a short lesson, but it's short because the material is very important. Remember and memorize which 7th chord falls on which step of the major key. And then when you come back, we'll do some more stuff with arpeggios and 2-octave arpeggios and harmonic minor scales in lesson 4. Okay, we're about to start off lesson number 4 now. Everybody turn your books to page number 16. The first thing we're going to do is the harmonic minor scale. And these are the scales that are used for classical metal, classical rock, like Yngwie Malmsteen, and music like that, Vinnie Moore, Tony McAlpine. A lot of these people use these scales for soloing. But bassists usually double a lot of riffs using the harmonic minor scales, especially in music like that, or even in the thrash metal stuff, they're using harmonic minor scales a lot more often now. Now, in page number 16, on the left-hand side of the page, we have the A harmonic minor scale in root position. A harmonic minor scale is the same thing as a regular natural minor scale with a raised seventh. There's the raised seventh up to the octave. Now back down the scale. And now I'll play that for you to faster speed. Now, over on the right-hand side of the page, I've written out the harmonic minor scale over about 2 octaves so that you can go past just the root note and octave. We're going to start on the 7th at the 4th fret on the 4th string, and we're going to slide our first finger into, continuing on. Right here, pivot your first finger over to the 7th, and then slide your first finger. Going on to page number 17, we're going to talk about diminished arpeggios. A diminished arpeggio is something that happens when we harmonize the harmonic minor scale. We didn't encounter any diminished arpeggios or augmented arpeggios, which we'll be covering next, when we harmonize the major scale. But we do encounter them when we harmonize the harmonic minor scale. The first one on the left-hand side of the page is a G-sharp diminished 7th chord. Now, we talked about half diminished before. This is fully diminished chord. It has a double flatted 7th in it. And it may be an awkward fingering for you at first. Let's go through this slowly, starting with your first finger on G-sharp on the 4th string. That's 1 octave of the arpeggio. Over on the right-hand side of the page, we have the 2-octave G-sharp diminished 7th chord. Okay, and on the bottom of page 17, we have a 2-octave G-sharp diminished riff. This one is also a great coordination exercise for you. Once you get this down, you can use this to warm up with. Watch the fingering on it. This fingering has been written out for you to make it more comfortable for you to play the riff. It's going up 2-octave arpeggio using 4. Play that riff for you at a faster speed. Now, if you go on in your books to page number 18, we're going to go over the augmented arpeggios. What an augmented arpeggio is it's a major arpeggio with a sharped 5 or augmented 5. Remember, diminished means to make smaller, augmented means to make larger. So we're making the interval of the 5th larger by augmenting it, and it's called an augmented 5th. Okay, here's the fingering for it. You can start at the 8th fret on the 4th string with your 4th finger. And back down the arpeggio. started on the note C. This is a C augmented arpeggio. And we ended on the note C, the octave. Now, if we were to use a seventh, it would be a major seventh. And if we add the seventh onto it, make the C augmented seventh chord, this is what the fingering is going to be like. It's on the right-hand side of the page. And with faster speed. Okay, and now down to the two-octave augmented riff. This is a really tough riff. We're going to start this out really slowly. I'll go through it step by step, finger by finger with you, and then I'll play it for you faster. We're going to be starting on the seventh, which would be the note B, the seventh fret on the fourth string. To the root note C of the augmented seventh chord with your second finger, and then your first finger on the third, at the seventh fret on the third string. First group of notes are the first measure. It's like that. Now slide your hand up, stretching out to get your third finger up to the 11th fret. Continuing on. First finger at the 9th fret, second finger at the 10th fret. Then slide your second finger from the 10th fret all the way up to the 14th fret. First finger at the 13th fret on the first string. And then reach up with your third finger to the 16th fret. And then have your fourth finger hit the root note C at the 17th fret. Now I'm going to play up the riff for you at a faster speed. One more time. Okay, and over on the right-hand side of the page, we're going to show you one of the things that I've encountered using augmented arpeggios. This is from the Rime of the Ancient Mariner from the Iron Maiden Power Slave album. It uses the augmented arpeggios in the middle of the song during the slow part of the song. Okay, now moving on to page number 19, we're going to go through some two-octave arpeggios. Again, with classical, metal, and styles like that, two-octave arpeggios are being used a lot more, and bass players and guitar players are doubling riffs with each other, so it would be good for you to get these down. Now, the first thing we're going to do are the G major two-octave arpeggios. And these aren't two different arpeggios, I just have two fingerings written out on the page for you. You can choose whichever one is more comfortable for you. The first one, we're going to start with the second finger at the note G at the 3rd fret on the 4th string. Okay, one more time at a faster speed. Now here's the alternate fingering. Would be starting at the root note G with your first finger. And at a faster speed. Moving on to page number 20, we're going to show you the A minor arpeggio, the two-octave arpeggio. And again, I've given you two different fingerings for it, and you can choose whichever one is more comfortable for you. First, starting with your first finger at the 5th fret on the 4th string. And at a faster speed. And now here's the alternate fingering, which will start with your 3rd finger at the 5th fret on the 4th string on the note A. Again, slowly. one time really fast. And finally, the E minor 7 arpeggio, 2 octaves. We're going to start at the 12th fret, the note E at the 12th fret on the 4th string E. And once at a faster speed. Okay, and that'll finish off tape number 3. Now, get set to go on to tape number 4, the advanced B tape, and this is it. Everything's in that tape, all the hot tricks and licks. The two-handed bidextral hammer-ons. We're going to be doing the eruption solo transposed for bass. We're also going to be doing some rapid-fire bidextral trills in the style of Billy Sheehan. Then we're going on to all sorts of harmonics techniques, building chords with harmonics, false harmonics, tapping harmonics, and we're going to do an advanced solo at the end of the tape using the modes, and we're going to go over all the modal scales, and this is what you need to become the real pro that you've been dying to go for. Now, everything on tape number 3 has set you up to be ready for tape 4, so if I were you, I would go back and practice every single lesson, go through every lesson at least 2 or 3 times, and make sure you've got it all down. This is the background that you need, so hopefully we'll see you on tape number 4 in a short while.